This video tells some stories of people facing urban evictions in the Pacific Island nation of Vanuatu, and profiles a civil society response in one small community. The work by the Elang Etas Community Association may be a model that government looks to in the future to improve resilience and community engagement in the urban Pacific. Much work on displacement in the Pacific focuses on rural displacements due to disaster and climate change. These are serious problems, like Tropical Cyclone Pam, which devastated Vanuatu in 2015. But there is a significant third major source of forced displacement in the Pacific: urbanization. This video highlights the work of community activists in the Elang Etas community of Port Vila, the capital of Vanuatu. Mary first left her home on Tongoa, an outer island of Vanuatu, in 2010. Full of hope and plans, she had the joint goal of escaping future severe weather events and earning cash income to raise her two young sons. Today, Mary lives on her cousin's porch, and her sons are not attending school. She has been evicted 3 times, her home and property destroyed each time. The last eviction, 3 months ago, was a mistake, it turns out. The police bulldozed the wrong house. The sheriff's office has apologized to Mary and told her that she can return to her former plot, but she spent her life savings on her first home, bulldozed in 2014. She barely managed to rebuild after the first eviction, and she has no hope of doing so now. She has no electricity and no sheltered place to set up her sewing machine, so she is alienated from her livelihood as a seamstress. Mary, a widow, has survived a relocation to the capital city and 3 evictions, all while being a single mother. She has a demonstrated pattern of resilience, but after repeated evictions, her capacity is thinning. Across town, there are emerging lessons from survivors of displacement that have successfully mobilized to resist further evictions. After her second eviction, Mary could have moved to Elang Etas with many of her neighbors, but she chose to settle with her family closer to town, where she could have better access to small sources of livelihoods, such as selling snacks. Organizations such as the Elang Etas Community Association have been successfully resisting eviction, engaging with customary processes and building networks to make their needs understood by government. The Elang Etas Community Association formed to advocate for a community that is frequently and erroneously described as informal. EECA was set up to resist an eviction for this community of 2,800 people, many who, like Mary, have come to Port Vila seeking refuge from climate events and a better life for their children.
Law number 4 March 2018, law year, people live in Haramanis. He got one kotota. Okay, only come together. No, one big flat general meeting, and only decide si mobile limas putum lima set mo one committee plo look or set mo one association no for promoting the side po kotote.
There are currently at least 72 evictions planned in and around Port Vila, a city of 80,000 people roughly. People in Elang Etas were living under a typical, customary tenure arrangement. At least part of the problem is procedural. There are no land registration procedures by which urbanizing agricultural land can be registered to individual tenants.
Major challenge we have start within the association have issue law ground where we will start. Ground have been stopped or someone subdivision area low agricultural lease. After Lohemia, you've been cut some arrangement with them lease developer don't make them residential lease.
A problem is that the previous leaseholder, whose lease with the customary landowner covered all of the land in Elang Etas, died before making sufficient payments to the customary landowners, despite collecting payments from community members for years or decades. 58% of households have made more than half of their agreed payments, including 43% who have made payments of the full agreement amount. This amounts to at least 57 million Vatu, 733,000 Australian dollars, and probably much more than this. Although there are, on paper, area councils and other forms of local government, these seem far away and illegible to local people, especially since government executed their previous evictions, and there is no clarity about residents' rights amidst the current eviction threats.
Etas all member belong association all in it belong all establish one land where hemi safeya mo hemi register.
EECA has broadened its scope to development activities, performing functions that government would typically manage and teaching people about their rights as citizens, such as their human right not to be subject to forcible displacement.
I think that when we go inside long community, you may find them all the different group of people who only live. And towards them all students where only drop off. And you got all the different criminal activities is that happen inside long community. Yeah? People only no camp only educated, only have rights.
But there are challenges to communicating with a community of 2,800 people with no budget, no office, and no support. When your office is outside, it is difficult to be productive. Elang Etas is not a homogeneous community, and reaching all members of this urban community is complex. According to an EECA census conducted in 2018, people from at least 23 different islands of Vanuatu's 82 total islands live in Elang Etas.
Naravala challenge where EECA hemi facing hemi communication inside long community. Communications hemi no pass down to grassroots. Long only have all information about association or else any development where hemi stuff happen inside law land or area law association.
But there are a growing number of success stories. EECA has been negotiating directly with the landowner, while the newly formed EECA Mamas and Youths Committees advocate within the EECA for the interests of women and the young. And founding member John Yasul has resigned from the EECA Executive Committee and is making a run for Parliament, handing over the chairmanship to Mr. Sam Tabawa. Yasul believes that politics is where he can best serve the interests of his community. Evictions like those that happened to Mary and that are threatening Elang Etas are already forbidden by international law and by national policy in Vanuatu. Preventing them in practice is an important next step. There is currently funding and political will to address the interlinked issues of climate change and disaster-induced displacement. It is a good time to complete the discussion of displacement by bringing urban evictions under the same umbrella, where it belongs. Looking to existing models of community empowerment and collaboration is a good start.